Daphne, it created something very different. Without the painful memories that had damaged her trust, she looked at Kadir without anger, suspicion, or fear. She saw him only through the feelings that remained inside her. This becomes important because even when her mind could not remember their problems, her heart still moved naturally toward him. Kadir tried to protect her while carrying the weight of everything he knew. He understood that their relationship had never been as simple as Daphne believed during those days. He knew that telling her the truth too quickly could hurt her. Because of this, he stayed close while trying to control his emotion. The situation placed them inside a false marriage, yet some of their happiest moments came during this false arrangement. Daphne felt comfortable around Kadir. She began noticing small things about him, the way he cared, the way he tried to protect her, and the way he became uncomfortable whenever she moved emotionally closer. What Daphne did not understand was that Kadir's distance was not a lack of love, it was the opposite. He was afraid that accepting the happiness created by the lost memory would be unfair. At the same time, Tolga could not calmly accept what was happening for him. The accident seemed to give Kadir an advantage that should ever have existed. Tolga wanted Daphne to know the full truth because he believed that once her memories returned, she would understand why she had been hurt and why she had reached such a painful point before the accident. Selma also struggled with Daphne's presence in Kadir's home. Her distrust and mood the atmosphere harder, and what could have been a peaceful recovery became another battlefield. Yet every new problem inside that house also pushed Daphne and Kadir emotionally closer. The more people tried to explain why their connection was complicated, the more Daphne felt that something powerful must have happened between them. Then the most important charge finally arrived. Pieces of the past returned. The accident, the heartbreak, the misunderstanding, and the emotional pain that Daphne had forgotten suddenly became clear again. In that moment, the story completely changed because Daphne was no longer an innocent woman living inside a misunderstanding. She knew again exactly who Kadir was, what had happened between them, and why she had suffered. However, instead of immediately revealing that her memory had returned, Daphne appears ready to continue the game. This decision gives the coming story a completely different energy. Until now, Kadir was the person hiding the truth in order to protect Daphne. From this point onward, Daphne becomes the person who knows the truth, while Kadir believes she is still living without it. That reversal can become the most powerful part of the coming story because Daphne now has the chance to watch Kadir without him. Knowing that she remembers everything, she can test his feelings, study his action, and force him into situations where words are no longer enough. More importantly, she can discover whether Kadir stays beside her because he feels responsible for the accident and her condition, or because losing her has finally made him understand the depth of his love. The coming part of Muhtemel Ask will most likely begin with Daphne acting almost exactly as she did before everyone learned that her memories had returned. She will not suddenly become good because that would immediately make Kadir suspicious. Instead, she will continue behaving like the loving woman who believes she and Kadir share a marriage. But there will be a major difference hidden behind every smile and every calm expression. Previously, Daphne asked question because she genuinely did not know the answer. Now she can ask the same kind of questions because she wants to see whether Kadir tells the truth. Every simple movement can Therefore, every simple moment can therefore become a test. She may ask about their post marriage through first days together, their future, or the problems between their families. Kadir will probably try to avoid creating false memories for her. He has already shown that the situation makes him comfortable because he does not want to take advantage of her condition. That normal struggle is exactly what Daphne can use to understand him. She may expect him to make selfish choices, but instead she could repeatedly discover that Kadir places her emotional safety before his own happiness. This will slowly weaken the angel she is trying to protect. Daphne believes she is continuing the game because she wants a final confirmation. She may tell herself that she needs Kadir trapped inside his own decision so he can no longer escape difficult questions. Yet her real reason for staying will be more complicated. She has remembered the pain, but she has also experienced a short version of the relationship without the pain. During the memory loss period, she saw another possibility for them. She discovered how natural it could feel to wake up near Kadir without immediately expecting betrayal. She discovered that ordinary moments between them could be warmer than dramatic promises. She saw him caring for her when he did not know how much she would eventually remember. Those memories are now mixed with the older painful ones. Because of this, Daphne will probably find it impossible to return to the exact person she was before the accident. She remember why she wanted distance, but she also remember how safe she felt beside Kadir afterward. Her plan to punish or pressure him may become strongly, yet every day spent in his house will make the plan emotionally dangerous for her. Kadir, believing her memory is still incomplete, will likely become more patient than before. He has already nearly lost her, and that fear can change his priorities. Earlier conflict often become worse because Kadir reacted quickly, allowed jealousy to control him, or refused to explain himself when he felt hurt. The accident gave him a painful lesson. He now knows that a single angry separation can become something permanent. As a result, Daphne's strange request may not create the reaction she expects. She may deliberately push him, hoping he will finally reveal the side of himself that made her angry. But Kadir could surprise her by agreeing to things simply because he want to see her happy. That is where the idea of renewing their marriage becomes very important. Daphne can create impossible condition around this plan, believing that Kadir will finally stop the game and admit that they were never really married. She may imagine that forcing him toward a ceremony will make the lie impossible to continue. Instead, Kadir may decide to follow her plan much further than she expected, not because he wants to deceive her, but because the idea of standing beside Daphne as her real partner may awaken something he can no longer hide. The false marriage could therefore move dangerously close to becoming a real promise. Daphne's plan can also bring a new emotional balance between her and Kadir, because for the first time she will hold information that gives her control. Earlier in their relationship, many of their biggest problems came from the information reaching one person before the other. A photograph, a secret, a misunderstanding, or another person manipulation could quickly change what Daphne believed about Kadir or what Kadir believed about Daphne. This time Daphne has an opportunity to stop reacting and start observing. She will notice when Kadir behave differently, when he thinks he cannot remember his mistake. If he were a selfish man, he could easily rewrite their entire history and present himself as a perfect husband. He could tell her that they had always been happy and use her confusion to remove Tolga from her life. But Kadir's hesitation will probably show Daphne that he is not comfortable building love on a lie. The more he refuses to invent a beautiful fake past, the harder it will become for Daphne to treat him like an enemy. She may begin to understand that some of his worst decisions came from fear, jealousy, and emotional weakness rather than a desire to destroy her trust. This understanding will not immediately erase the consequences of those decisions. Daphne is too strong to forget everything simply because she loves him. Instead, her emotional journey will be about deciding whether a person can make serious mistake and still deserve another chance after genuinely changing. Kadir's journey will be the opposite. He needs to learn that love cannot survive only through protection and sacrifice. He must learn to speak clearly, admit his mistakes, and trust Daphne enough to let her decide what she wants. If the coming story follows this direction, the marriage renewal plan will become much more than romantic comedy. It will become a test of whether Kadir can finally stop controlling the situation. Daphne may create increasingly strange arrangement around the ceremony. She could demand that both families participate, that certain people be invited, and that Kadir publicly behave like the happiest husband in Istanbul. Each condition would initially be designed to make him uncomfortable, but Kadir may accept them. The more seriously he takes the preparation, the more confused Daphne will become. She may watch him dealing with detail that he would normally consider unnecessary. She may see him protecting her choices even when Selma objects. She may notice how his expression changes whenever he looks at her in bridal cloth. These small movements will tell Daphne something that an angry argument never could. Kadir does not simply want to win against Tolga, he wants life with her. That realization will frighten Daphne because it will destroy the simple explanation she has been using to protect herself. If Kadir were only jealous or competitive, leaving him would be easy. If his love is real, the decision becomes much harder. Daphne will begin this game believing she is leading Kadir toward a confession, but slowly she may realize that she is leading herself toward a decision. Does she truly want the truth only so she can leave, or does she want the truth because she needs a reason to stay? The coming story can make this question central. Daphne will not be able to answer it immediately. Her pride will tell her that returning to Kadir would make all her previous pain meaningless. Her heart will tell her that refusing to see his change could create a different kind of regret. While Daphne and Kadir become trapped inside this unusual emotional game, the arrival of Daphne's family at the Imendage house can create a completely separate storm. Mine, Susie, and August entering the same environment as Selma means that the house will no longer belong only to one family's rule. Selma is already uncomfortable with Daphne, and having even more people connected to her inside the house can push her patience to the limit. Yet this conflict may become useful for Daphne. When she had lost her ceremony, Selma's harsh behavior hurt her because she could not understand where the anger came from. Now Daphne remembers exactly why Selma feels threatened. That knowledge changes how Daphne can respond. Instead of becoming confused, she may remain unusually calm. Selma may expect emotional reaction, but Daphne could surprise her by treating every criticism with controlled politeness. This would create a different kind of tension because Selma would feel that Daphne is no longer or easy to disturb. At the same time, Kadir may become much more open about defending Daphne before the accident. Family pressure could influence his decision. After nearly losing Daphne, he may no longer be willing to remain silent. If Selma humiliates Daphne or her family, Kadir could directly place boundaries around his mother's behavior. For Daphne, this will be another expected sign. She wants to believe that nothing important has changed. Yet Kadir will keep showing her that something has the conflict inside the house can therefore work on two levels. On the surface, it can provide lighter and more chaotic senses with two families trying to live under the same roof while holding completely different ideas about privacy, status, and relationship. Underneath the comedy, however, Kadir's position between Daphne and Selma will show whether he has truly matured. The old Kadir may have tried to keep peace by asking everyone to compromise. The new Kadir may understand that avoiding a decision is also a decision. He will have to show Daphne that if they ever build a real life together, she will not constantly be asked to prove herself to his family. Main storyline may add another surprise because Levent's marriage proposal can shift attention away from Daphne for a while. A romantic proposal inside an already unstable house will create excitement, suspicion, and jealousy. Mine may be surprised by the seriousness of Levent's intention, especially if their relationship has carried its own uncertainty. Her possible engagement can also affect Daphne emotionally. Watching someone else receive a clear marriage proposal may force Daphne to compare it with her own unusual situation. She is planning a fake renewal ceremony for a marriage that never truly existed, while another couple may be discussing a genuine future. That contrast can quietly affect her. Daphne may begin the wedding preparation as a strategy, but the atmosphere created by Mine and Levent could make the idea of commitment feel more real. She may imagine what a genuine ceremony with Kadir would look like if there were no secret between them. Once that thought enters her mind, it will be difficult to remove. Kadir could experience the same thing. He may start following Daphne's conditions simply to protect her, but as preparation continues, he could begin imagining the ceremony as something he genuinely wants. This creates the perfect emotional trap. Both of them know the situation began with the misunderstanding, yet both slowly want the result to become real. Tolga would probably become the person most disturbed by Daphne's continued closeness with Kadir. During the memory loss period, his frustration came from believing that Daphne was making decisions without access to the full history. He had a reasonable reason to feel that the situation was unfair because Daphne could not properly remember the events that had pushed her away from Kadir. But once Daphne regains her memory, everything changes. If Tolga discovers that she remembers and still chooses to stay close to Kadir, he will have to face a truth he has avoided for a long time. Daphne's connection with Kadir is not only the result of confusion. She may be angry with Kadir, disappointed in him, and tired of their problem, but her love continues to survive. For Tolga, expecting this will be painful. He has often represented the safer and more controlled possibility in Daphne's life. He knows her profession, would understand her ambition, and can offer a relationship that appears more logical. Kadir, on the other hand, entered her life like a disruption. He challenged the order she had spent years building, yet love is rarely decided by which option looks safer on paper. Tolga may finally understand that every attempt to separate Daphne and Kadir only keeps him trapped in a competition he cannot truly win. This does not mean he will immediately step away. In fact, the coming story may first push him in the opposite direction. Once he suspects that Daphne's memory has returned, he may question why she is pretending. He may assume she is preparing to expose Kadir, and this could make him temporarily spot her game. Tolga could believe that once Daphne forces Kadir to confess every hidden truth, she will finally close that chapter. But Tolga may slowly notice that Daphne is no longer acting like someone preparing to leave. She will defend Kadir more often. She will become jealous when another woman gets too close. She will pay attention to details about his day. Her fake role will begin producing very real reaction. Tolga is intelligent enough to see the difference. This realization may create his biggest emotional crisis so far, because he will need to decide whether loving Daphne means continuing to fight for her or finally respecting the choice she is making even when it hurts him. A strong development for Tolga would be moving away from simple jealousy and becoming more emotionally mature. Instead of trying to defeat Kadir through manipulation, he could begin protecting his own dignity. He may warn defense one that she is risking another heartbreak, but then he could step aside and allow her to make the decision. That would not make him unimportant. It could actually make him more powerful as a character, because Daphne would finally see him outside the love triangle. However, before reaching that stage, Tolga could still create one final major problem. If he learns that Daphne remembers everything, he might confront Kadir indirectly or reveal information that Daphne wanted to use later. His intention could be to save her from repeating an old mistake, but the result could destroy Daphne's carefully prepared plan. This would force her to stop hiding and finally tell both men what she actually wants. Laila's position is also likely to change sharply after Kadir's learned more about the damage caused by her action. Kadir's patience with Laila appears to have reached its limit, and it's important because Laila has often been connected to misunderstanding that kept Kadir and Daphne apart. If Kadir truly removes her from his personal life, the story loses one of its easiest sorts of conflict. The next problem between Kadir and Daphne cannot simply be blamed on an outside woman. They will have to deal with each other directly from the relationship. This is necessary as long as every crisis comes from someone else. Neither Daphne nor Kadir has to examine the deeper weakness between them. Their real problem has always been trust. They both react strongly when they feel rejected, and both sometimes make decisions before hearing the complete truth. Removing Laila from the center can expose this weakness more clearly. Daphne may even feel conflicted when she learns how firmly Kadir has closed that door. Part of her will be relieved because Laila represented a constant threat to their connection. Another part may feel guilty because she is still secretly testing Kadir even after he has begun removing the people and habits that damage their relationship. This guilt could become one of the reasons she eventually revealed that her memory has returned. At first, Daphne can justify the deception by telling herself that Kadir also hid the truth from her, but the situations are not exactly the same. Kadir believed he was protecting a recovering woman from a dangerous emotional shock. Daphne is hiding the truth deliberately to create a confrontation. As Kadir continues treating her with care, Daphne may begin questioning whether her plan has gone too far. A movement involving Laila could accelerate this change if Laila returns to create one financial disturbance and tells Daphne that Kadir will eventually hurt her again. Daphne may unexpectedly defend Kadir. The important part would not be what Daphne says, but what she realizes afterward. Defending him automatically would reveal that she has already made an emotional choice before making a logical one. She may hate that realization because it places her in a vulnerable position again. Daphne spent years building a life where she could control the important parts. Love with Kadir has repeatedly destroyed that control. Her temporary memory loss allowed her to experience the relationship without constantly calculating the risk. Now that her memories have returned, she must decide whether control is truly the same thing as safety. The series can use this point to deepen Daphne's character. Her independence should not disappear because she falls in love. Instead, she can discover that choosing someone freely is different from becoming dependent on that person. She does not need Kadir to rescue her, she needs him to become a partner who respects her strength. Kadir, in return, must understand that protecting Daphne does not mean deciding what she should know or what she can handle. Their next major conversation should therefore go beyond jealousy. It should become a discussion, even if presented without long dramatic speeches, about what kind of relationship they are actually capable of building. The marriage renewal ceremony has the potential to become the turning point of the entire coming story. At first, Daphne may design it as an possible challenge. She can make demand that she believes Kadir will refuse because fulfilling them would push the false marriage too close to reality. She could insist on a proper celebration, family involvement, meaningful promises, and a complete wedding atmosphere. Her purpose would be simple: force Kadir to admit that there is no marriage to renew, yet Kadir's response can destroy her expectation. Instead of refusing, he may quietly begin arranging everything for Kadir. The ceremony can represent something different. He knows the marriage is not real, but this love is. He may begin seeing the event as the closest chance he has to show Daphne the future he wants without pressuring her during her recovery. This creates beautiful dramatic irony because Kadir believes Daphne is participating without full memory, while Daphne believes Kadir is participating without knowing. She remembers both are hiding information, but neither is hiding love. The preparation will expose them. Daphne may select a detail designed to make Kadir uncomfortable, only to discover that he takes them seriously. She might choose a location connected with their past, expecting him to become nervous and instead see him emotionally affected. She might demand something personal, hoping he will refuse, only to find that he has remembered small details about her preferences that even she forgot. Every successful test will create new problem for Daphne because she is searching for evidence that leaving him is the correct decision, while Kadir keeps giving her reason to question that conclusion. Kadir may also notice small inconsistencies in Daphne's behavior. Someone who truly cannot remember certain events should not react before receiving information. Daphne may accidentally recognize a place, mention a detail, or show anger about something she supposedly does not remember. At first, Kadir could dismiss these moments because he wants to believe her recovery is happening slowly, but but eventually he will become suspicious. The smartest direction would be for Kadir to discover the truth before Daphne realizes he knows. Then the game reverses again. He could understand that Daphne remembers everything but decide not to expose her immediately. Instead, he may allow her plan to continue because he recognizes what she is trying to discover. If that happens, the ceremony preparation becomes a silent battle where both people know more than the other believes. Daphne tests whether Kadir will confess. Kadir wants to see whether Daphne will admit that She remembers neither want to be the first to remove the final protection around their heart. This can create tension without needing another villain. A glance becomes important, a small mistake becomes dangerous, a family member almost revealing the truth becomes a major event. The audience understands that the biggest explosion is approaching because the relationship cannot continue while both are pretending. The ceremony itself could then become the place where the game finally ends. Daphne may reach the moment where they expect Kadir to stop everything, but instead he could be ready to make the promise real. Seeing him prepared to choose her publicly may break through the last layer of her danger. Still, the story should not make reconciliation too easy because the emotional damage between Daphne and Kadir has been built through several conflicts. If they simply fall into each other's arms after the ceremony, the development would not cease, meaning a stronger prediction is that Daphne will finally reveal her recovered memory at the moment when Kadir is most emotionally exposed. She may admit that she remembered much earlier than he believed and that the entire renewal plan was designed to force him to face everything between them. Kadir's first reaction will probably not be simple happiness. He may feel betrayed for days. He has controlled himself because he believed Daphne was medically vulnerable. He has accepted strange demands, hidden painful facts, and tried to protect her. Learning that she knew the truth could make him feel that his emotions were being tested without his permission. This gives Kadir a legitimate reason to become angry, and it prevents the story from presenting Daphne as automatically correct. Daphne, however, will also have a strong reason for what she did. Every time she previously tried to solve their problems directly, something interrupted them. To Kadir closed himself emotionally. She may explain through her action that she needed to see who Kadir was when he believed there was nothing to gain from honesty. Their conflict would therefore be different from earlier arguments. This time both would have valid pain. Kadir hid truth to protect her. Daphne hid truth to test him. Each believed there was a good reason, yet both removed the other person's ability to make an informed choice. That parallel can become the lesson they need. Love cannot grow if both people are constantly managing what the other person is allowed to know. After this confrontation, Daphne might temporarily leave the Amidat's house. Importantly, leaving would not mean choosing Tolga or ending her feelings. It would mean ending the false marriage game. She could return to her own home and tell Kadir through her decision rather than a dramatic conversation that if they ever start again, it must be real from the first moment. This separation could actually create hope instead of tragedy. For the first time, they would no longer be connected through an accident, false marriage, family pressure, or competition. Kadir would have to approach Daphne as himself. Daphne would have to decide as the fully informed woman. She is no missing memories, no hidden plan, and no third person deciding what is best. Kadir's next move after this separation will matter greatly. Earlier, he might have reacted by becoming jealous of Tolga or trying to force or a quick Tolga or trying to force a quick answer. Now he should give Daphne space while remaining emotionally available. That would prove his growth better than any romantic gesture. Daphne's need to see that Kadir can love without controlling. If he respects her decision, even when it scares him, she will game have stronger evidence that another chance could be different from the first one. The side stories can meanwhile create pressure that bring Daphne and Kadir's back into the same space. Mind and Levent's possible engagement can become one such reason if their families begin preparing for a celebration. Daphne and Kadir may be forced to attend the same gathering after their own confirmation. This would produce a more mature kind of tension. Instead of screaming at each other, they could become painfully polite. Both would know that the feelings are still present, but neither could want to repeat the old pattern of immediately returning without solving anything. Their families may also react in unexpected ways. Mine could support Daphne's independence but quietly recognize that she still loves Kadir. August may focus more on the whether Kadir is trustworthy than on which man Daphne should choose. Selma may see the separation as the victory at first, only to realize that Kadir is unhappier without Daphne than he ever was during the chaos. The could begin Selma's own change. If the genuinely loves her son, she will eventually have to ask whether her constant resistance is protecting him or making his life worse. Selma does not need to suddenly become Daphne's biggest supporter. A slow change would be more believable. She could first support attacking Daphne, then begun acknowledging her strength, and only later accept that Kadir's choice cannot be controlled. Daphne may also need to understand Selma more clearly. Selma's behavior can be wrong, while the fear behind it still has an emotional reason. If Daphne and Selma eventually speak without Kadir present, both women could realize that they have something important in common. Neither likes losing control over the people they love. Such a development would give their conflict more depth. At the same time, Tolga could begin stepping outside the triangle. He may focus more on his work or family issues, giving the character an other direction. But the transition will probably not happen without one final emotional test. Tolga might receive an opportunity to damage Kadir's position and choose not to use it. Daphne, discovering this, could repair some of the respect damaged by their romantic competition. Instead of ending as enemies, Daphne and Tolga could reach a point where she appreciates what he meant in her life without pretending that gratitude is love. For Dolga, expecting their difference would be painful but freeing. He would stop waiting for Daphne to choose him simply because Kadir made a mistake. That would also increase the pressure on Daphne's because when Tolga stops actively competing, he can no longer use the triangle as a reason uh, to avoid making her own choice. The story will become completely about Daphne and Kadir. They either rebuild the relationship, accept that love by itself is not enough. And other likely development is that Kadir past will return in a way that tests the new honesty they are trying to build. The series has already shown that secret connected with his history can affect not only him but also the people around him. Even if one major secret has been revealed, stories like Muhtemel Ask usually do not close the past completely after a single confirmation. These could be another consequences waiting behind information that has already appeared. The important difference should be how Kadir handles it this time. If he learns something dangerous, or embracing his old instinct may tell him to hide it from Daphne's until he can solve the problem himself. The instinct can create the final test of his development. He may begin keeping the issue private, then remember exactly how secrecy damaged them before. Instead of repeating the cycle, he would choose to tell Daphne before she discovered it from someone else. This simple at this stage, the meaning of the title Muhtemel Ask or Possible Loves becomes even more important. The relationship between Daphne and Kadir has always existed as a possibility, surrounded by reasons why it should not work. Their personalities clash, their families create pressure. Tolga offers another path, secret damage trust. Pride turns misunderstanding into separation, yet, despite all of this, the possibility keeps returning. The next part of the story can turn that possibility into a conscious choice. Earlier, Daphne and Kadir often appear to fall toward each other because circumstances forced them together. A crisis brought them close, jealousy revealed hidden feelings, separation created longing. The accident produced a false marriage. Now, those outside forces need to become less important. Daphne must eventually choose Kadir when there is no emergency pushing her toward him. Kadir must choose Daphne without treating the choice like a victory over Tolga. If they reach that stage, their relationship becomes more important than chemistry. The renewal ceremony may fail as Daphne's original trap, but the idea can return later with a completely new meaning. Perhaps after the truth is revealed and both spend times apart, Kadir will quietly return the same idea to Daphne. This time there would be no fake history to protect and no medical condition to consider. Instead of renewing a marriage that never happened, they could decide whether they want to begin something real. The visual connection with Daphne's white bridal appearance would then carry emotional weight. The first bridal moment would belong to the game, a later one could belong to the genuine choice. The series does not need to rush into an actual marriage immediately. Even deciding to start the relationship honestly could be enough, but the idea of a marriage will remain hanging over them, especially because both families have already been forced to imagine them together. The coming story should also show Daphne taking stronger control of her professional life because her emotional journey should not replace the career ambition that defines her character. One reason Kadir attracted her was that he arrived outside the carefully planned structure she had built. Falling in love should complicate that structure, not erase it. After the accident, Daphne may return to work with the new understanding of how quickly life can change. She could become more willing to take professional risk that the previously avoided. A major case, investment, or business decision could appear at exactly the same time that her relationship with Kadir begins improving. The old Daphne might assume she must choose between personal happiness and professional success. The new Daphne can challenge that idea. This would also test Kadir. If he genuinely wants a future with her, he must support the life she has built rather than expecting her world to revolve around him. Kadir may initially struggle, especially if her works involves Tolga or another man he distrusts. His jealousy could return, but the important point would be whether he controls it. Instead of demanding that Daphne change her professional plan, he could openly admit that the situation makes him uncomfortable while still respecting for her decision. That would show meaningful growth. Daphne may be more impressed by this than by any wedding surprise because respect is what she has been searching for beneath all the romance. By the final part of the predicted section, the emotional direction becomes clear. Daphne's secret will not be able to survive forever. Kadir will either discover that her memory returned or Daphne will become tired of maintaining the performance. The renewal game will therefore move toward the confrontation that both characters actually need. When the truth comes out, the first result may look like another separation, but this time the separation will have a different purpose. Instead of running from feelings, they will be clearing away the false story that has surrounded those feelings. Daphne will need to stop testing Kadir from a protected position. Kadir will need to stop hiding difficult truth in the name of protecting Daphne. Tolga will need to accept that he cannot build love from another couple's mistakes. Selma will need to realize that controlling Kadir's choices will only push him further away. Leila will have to face the consequences of the manipulation and chaos connected with her action. Mine and Levent's developing future may quietly show everyone that commitment requires clarity, not endless games. All these stories can meet around the same theme. Love becomes real only when people are allowed to choose it with full knowledge of the risk. The most interesting prediction is therefore not that Daphne and Kadir will simply become happy after the memory story. It is that Daphne's recovered memory will create one last test before they can finally build something more stable. She remembers enough to be angry, but she has also experienced enough to know that her feelings survived even when everything else disappeared. That knowledge cannot be ignored. She may try to treat the marriage renewal plan but but every step will bring her closer to admitting that she does not truly want revenge. But every step will bring her closer to admitting that she does not truly want revenge. What she wants is certainty. She wants Kadir to stop leaving important truth unfinished. She wants him to choose her clearly. She wants to know that if she gives him another chance, she will not once again become the person trying to understand that what everyone else already knows. Kadir, meanwhile, needs certainty of his own. He wants to know whether Daphne's love can survive the knowledge of his mistake. Her memory loss temporarily gave him a version of happiness that felt almost perfect, but he understands that it cannot be real if Daphne does not remember the reasons she once wanted to leave. When he eventually discovered that she remembered and still has not completely walked away, he may finally understand that he has been given something far more meaningful than forgiveness. He has been given the possibility of earning trust again. That is why the coming chapter of Muhtemel could become less about deciding which man Daphne will choose and more about deciding what kind of love. Tolga represents the life that appears easier to understand. Kadir represents the life that has forced her to examine parts of herself she spent years controlling. Neither man should be treated simply as a prize or punishment. Daphne's final decision should come from the person she has become through everything that happened. If she chooses Kadir again, it will not erase her previous pain. It will mean she has seen both his mistake and his changes and decided that the relationship still has a future. If Kadir receives that second chance, he cannot treat it costly. The next mistake can be another secret followed by another dramatic apology. The story needs to show him becoming someone who can stay honest even when honesty may cost him the woman he loves. The next big twist may arrive just when both begin believing the worst is over. Daphne and Kadir could reach a quiet understanding after exposing their secret game, only for an unresolved issue from Kadir's past or Daphne's professional would to appear. However, unlike earlier twist, this problem could become the opportunity that proved they have changed. Instead of allowing another person to tell Daphne first, Kadir can draw directly to her. The problem could become the opportunity that proves they have changed. Instead of allowing another person to tell Daphne first, Kadir can go directly to her. Instead of assuming the worst, Daphne can listen. Tolga may even become part of solving the problem rather than using it to separate them. This would demonstrate that the love triangle itself is evolving. Relationships do not need to remain frozen in rivalry forever. Tolga can still care about Daphne while respecting her choice. Kadir can stop seeing every interaction between Daphne and Tolga as a threat. Daphne can stop using one man to escape the problems created by the other. Once those patterns change, the story gains room for new conflict that do not feel like preparations. Everything therefore points toward a coming chapter where Daphne's fake role as Kadir's loving life becomes more truthful with every passing day. She begins the plan with control, but emotion slowly takes control away from her. She expects Kadir to fail the test, yet he may repeatedly surprise her. She expects the renewal ceremony to expose the lie, yet it may expose her own feelings instead. She expects returning memories to make her decision simple, but remembering everything actually make it more complicated because now she carries two powerful versions of their relationship at the same time. She remembers the heartbreak, but she also remembers waking up with no history and still feeling that Kadir was someone important. That experience will remain impossible to explain through logic alone. Kadir will also reach a point where he must decide whether to continue protecting Daphne through silence or risk losing her by telling the complete truth. The strongest version of his character will choose the second option. He will understand that love built on protection without honesty is another form of control. Daphne does not need a man who decides which truth she can handle. She needs someone brave enough to stand in front of her with nothing hidden. When he finally does that, the next decision belongs completely to her. That is where Muhtemel Ask can deliver its most emotional development. Daphne may not give an immediate answer. She may allow Kadir to believe for a short time that he has lost her, but rather than returning because she is unable to leave without him, she can return because she has finally decided that fear should not make every decision in her life. The section may close with the symbolic reversal of the accident storyline. Earlier, Daphne forgot her past and unknowingly moved toward Kadir. Now she remembers everything and consciously moves toward him. That difference would represent the real beginning of their relationship. The first time her missing memories removed the obstacles. The second time she chooses him while remembering every obstacle. Kadir would understand that this choice is far more valuable than the false happiness they temporarily experienced. Tolga would understand that Daphne has made the decision with full knowledge. Selma would no longer be able to blame confusion or circumstances, and Daphne herself would finally know that the relationship is not controlling her life. She is choosing it. From there, a completely new phase can begin. Daphne and Kadir may still argue because their personalities will not suddenly change. Kadir may still become jealous. Daphne may still become stubborn, their families will still interfere, and outside problems will continue, but the foundation can be different. Instead of every disagreement threatening the end of the relationship, conflict can become things they learn to survive together. This would keep the romance alive without repeating the same cycle of misunderstanding, separation, and reunion. The audience could finally watch Daphne and Kadir face problems strong as two people standing on the same side. For now, however, the most immediate danger is Daphne's secret. She believes she controls the game because Kadir does not know there her memory has returned, yet love has already made the game unpredictable. The closer the renewal ceremony comes, the harder it will become for her to separate performance from reality. Wearing white may have begun a part of her plan, but seeing Kadir unable to hide what he feels can change the meaning of the movement. The closer renew the For a few seconds, Daphne may forget that she intended to expose him. She may look at the life that could exist if both of them stopped fighting against their feeling. That hesitation can become the real cliffhanger. Kadir may think Daphne is simple playing the role she believes is real, while Daphne will know that her own emotions have become more honest than the story she created. And this is where Muhtemel Ask can leave the audience with its strongest question. Daphne already remembers why she was hurt. She already knows why trusting Kadir is dangerous. She does not need another warning. The question is whether she also remembers enough happiness to believe that the danger is worth facing. Kadir cannot answer that question for her. Tolga cannot answer is for her, and neither family can decide it for once. The decision belongs only to Daphne. If she feeling chooses Kadir after remembering every painful detail, then the possible love at the center of the series will move one important step closer to becoming a real love built not on forgotten mistake but on two people who remember everything and choose each other anyway. The next part of the Muhtemel Ask can move into a much more dangerous emotional stage because Daphne is no longer simply trying to understand Kadir. She knew understand him well enough to know exactly where his weak points are, and this knowledge changes the balance between them. In the previous phase, Daphne's removed memory gave her the exchange because Kadir still believed then she was living inside a confused version of their relationship. Daphne used that advantage carefully. She watched him, tested him, and tried to understand whether his care come from love, guilt, or responsibility. But the longer the game continues, the more difficult it becomes for Daphne to control it. Every new day creates another moment where the must pretend not to remember something that is emotionally important to her. Every time Kadir protects her, she must hide the fact that the understand why he is doing it. Every time he avoids telling a lie about their post-marriage, Daphne feels the plan becoming harder. She started this game believing that she would be able to expose him. Now there is a real possibility that she will expose herself first. The coming story may show Daphne becoming tired of performing the role of a woman with incomplete memory. She will still smile when necessary and still allow Kadir to believe the situation is unchanged, but her small mistake can become more frequent. She may respond too quickly when someone mentions a past event. She may become angry about a detail she supposedly cannot remember. She may want to ignore them forever. His suspicion can grow slowly, make the relationship more tense without Daphne realizing that the person she is testing has started testing her in return. Kadir's first reaction to those inconsistencies may not be anger. He could initially feel hope. If Daphne is beginning to remember things, he may believe her recovery is happening normally. He may watch her more closely, waiting for signs that she is returning to herself. She may become angry about a detail she supposedly cannot remember. She may recognize a place or object before Kadir explains it. These moments will not immediately reveal her secret, but Kadir is too observant to ignore them forever. His suspicion can grow slowly, making the relationship more tense without Daphne realizing that the person she is testing has started testing her in return. Kadir's first reaction to these inconsistencies may not be anger. He could initially feel hope. If Daphne is beginning to remember things, he may believe her recovery is happening naturally. He may watch her more closely, waiting for signs that she is returning to herself, but hope can quickly turn into confusion when he noticed that Daphne sometimes remembered details she should not know while pretending to be lost about simpler things. Kadir may then begin to wonder whether the recovery happened earlier than she admitted. This possibility would hurt him because he has been making decisions based on what he believed was her vulnerable condition. He expected her strange marriage renewal ideas allowed her to remain closed and held back difficult truth because he thought the expected her mind was still healing. If he discovered that Daphne has been fully aware for some time, he may feel that the ground beneath him has moved again. However, instead of confronting her immediately, the story could make Kadir surprisingly patient. He may decide to remain silent and observe Daphne just as she observed him. This reversal would create one of the strongest parts of the coming storyline. Daphne believes she is leading the game. Kadir quietly begins understanding the game. Neither says what they truly know. Their ordinary movements become filled with hidden meanings. A simple breakfast becomes a test. A family visit becomes dangerous. A coil question can reveal more than a dramatic argument. The tension would no longer depend on an outside villain because the two main characters themselves would create it through silence. The marriage renewal preparation can become the perfect background for this secret battle. Daphne may continue adding details to the ceremony because stopping suddenly would make Kadir suspicious. At first, she can still tell herself that she is only continuing the plan until the gets the answer she wants. But the ceremony begins to feel real when family members become involved. Dresses are discussed, food is planned, decorations are chosen, and relatives begin treating the event as something meaningful. Daphne may not have expected the situation to grow so large. She imagined a control trap, not a real celebration. Yet, the more people become emotionally involved, the harder it becomes to cancel everything without explanation. Kadir, meanwhile, might initially allow the preparation to continue because he wants to understand Daphne's true goal. If he already suspects that she remembers, he may use the ceremony to see how far she is willing to go. This creates a fascinating mirror between them. Daphne originally wanted to push Kadir toward truth by making the fake marriage impossible to continue. Now Kadir may push Daphne toward truth by allowing the fake renewal to become impossible for her to escape. The closer the ceremony gets, the more nervous Daphne can become. She may begin imagining the moment when she is expected to stand beside Kadir in front of everyone. She knows that the original marriage was not real, yet the emotions surrounding the renewal feel real. That difference becomes dangerous because Daphne's plans depend on emotional distance. If she becomes emotionally involved, she can no longer pretend she is only conducting a test. She may look at the white dress and feel something she did not expect. Instead of seeing a costume, she can begin imagining what it would mean to truly marry Kadir one day. This thought will immediately frighten her because she has spent so much time convincing herself that she needs proof before she can trust him again. The dress becomes a symbol of exactly the future she is trying not to decide. Daphne may try to laugh at herself, but she cannot fully remove the image from her mind. Kadir may notice this change if he sees her becoming emotional around the preparation. He may begin to understand that her game is not only about revenge or control. Daphne is also trying to decide whether she can allow herself to want this future. Selma can become one of the most important obstacles during this period. Her discomfort with Daphne has not disappeared, and a ceremony inside the family may feel to her like proof that Daphne is becoming permanently connected to Kadir. Selma could react by questioning everything. She may complain that the situation is moving too quickly, especially while Daphne's memory is postally unstable. From Selma's point of view, this concern can appear reasonable. She may argue that Kadir is making important decisions because he feels guilty and that Daphne is not in a condition to understand what she wants. The irony is that Selma would be completely wrong about Daphne's mental state while accidentally touching the real emotional problem. Daphne does understand what is happening, but she still does not know what she truly wants. Selma's opposition can therefore create pressure from an unexpected direction. Instead of making Daphne want to leave, it may push her into defending the relationship more strongly. Whenever Selma questions Kadir's commitment, Daphne may respond automatically because she knows how much effort he has made. Every time this happens, Daphne moves another step away from her original plan. She wanted to observe Kadir as if she were emotionally outside the situation, but defending him shows that she is already inside it. Kadir's response to Selma will also matter. If he allows his mother to insult or control Daphne, all the growth created by the accident will look meaningless. The coming part should therefore show Kadir setting clear limits. He may tell Selma through his action that Daphne's place in his life cannot be decided by family approval. This would be especially important if Selma attempts to cancel or interfere with the renewal ceremony. Kadir could quietly restore every detail she removed. He could insist the Daphne's choices are respected. He may even move the preparation somewhere else if the house becomes too hostile. Daphne will notice these actions. She may not openly thank him because doing so would make her feeling obvious, but she will remember them. Kadir protecting the relationship from family pressure is exactly the kind of change Daphne needs to see. At the same time, Daphne's own family can create another kind of pressure. Mine, Susie, and August may enjoy watching Kadir become increasingly serious about the post marriage. Some of them might suspect that Daphne's behavior has changed. Family members often notice emotional detail that others mine could especially become suspicious if Daphne starts asking questions about Kadir that sound less like the question of a confused woman and more like the question of someone trying to make a decision. She may react. She may realize that Daphne remembered more than she admit. If Mine discovered the truth before Kadir openly confronted Daphne, she could become the person caged between loyalty and honesty. She may want to protect Daphne's plan, but she can also see how deeply Kadir is becoming involved. This can create an interesting moral conflict. It is fair to let Kadir continue believing that Daphne does not remember. Mine may eventually tell Daphne that the game has lasted too long. She might not expose her, but she can warn her that someone is going to be seriously hurt if the truth does not come out soon. Daphne could reject this warning at first because admitting that the game has become unfair would force her to examine her own actions. She has strong reason for needing proof, but those reasons do not automatically make every choice acceptable. This is important for her character. Daphne should not be presented as perfect simply because Kadir made mistake. First, her strength comes from the fact that she can eventually recognize when she is also constructing to be problem. If she continues manipulating the situation after understanding Kadir's feeling, she risks becoming exactly the kind of person she blamed him for being, someone who decides what information the other person deserves to know. The story can slowly lead her toward their realization. Tolga's role becomes much more complicated as the ceremony approaches. He may first believe the event is another result of Daphne's memory loss. This would make him angry because he sees Kadir benefiting from a situation that Daphne needs time. But if he discovers that Daphne has already remembered everything, his anger will change direction. Instead of blaming Kadir, he will feel betrayed by Daphne. He may ask himself why she is continuing to pretend and why she is allowing herself to become even more connected to Kadir. Tolga could believe that Daphne is playing with fire. From his perspective, she already knows how deeply Kadir can hurt her, so deliberately entering another emotional situation with him seems dangerous. Tolga may try to convince Daphne to end the plan before she becomes trapped by her own feeling. He may remind her through his behavior that she does not need to prove anything to Kadir, but Daphne can become defensive because Tolga's concern will sound too much like control. She has spent enough time with other people telling her what decision is best for her. The accident, the memory confusion, and the rivalry between Kadir and Tolga have often reduced her to the center of the competition. Now, Daphne may finally insist on making her own choice. This can be one of the moments where Tolga understands that continuing to fight Kadir is no longer helping him. Every attempt to pull Daphne may simply push her into defending Kadir more strongly. A more mature Tolga could then begin changing his behavior. Instead of trying to stop the ceremony, she may step back and watch. This does not mean his feelings disappear. He may still love Daphne, but he starts respecting the fact that love cannot be demanded. He can become less interested in defeating Kadir and more interested in protecting his own dignity. This shift could surprise Daphne. She may have expected Tolga to create another crisis, but it is refusal to complete might make her see him differently. Their relationship could slowly move from romantic tension toward a difficult friendship. That development would free the series from endlessly repeating the same love triangle. Tolga can remain important without constantly standing between Daphne and Kadir. However, before Tolga reaches that maturity, the story may give him one final opportunity to interfere. He could learn something serious about Kadir's past. It may be connected to a business issue, an old relationship, or a family secret that Kadir has not yet told Daphne. Tolga would then face a choice. He could reveal it immediately and destroy Kadir's progress, or he could wait and see whether Kadir tells Daphne himself. This would become a test of Tolga's growth as much as Kadir. If Tolga chooses not to use the information as a weapon, the audience would see that he is beginning to step outside the rivalry. If Kadir then tells Daphne voluntarily, the entire emotional structure of the series changes. Both men would be behaving more maturely, leaving Daphne without the familiar excuse that everyone around her is hiding or manipulating something. Leila can also return during this period, but her function should be different from earlier episodes. Instead of simply creating jealousy, she can become the trigger that exposes how much Kadir has changed. Leila may attempt to approach him again, believing that Daphne's unstable condition gives her another chance. Kadir's response should be clear and final. He should not flirt, hesitate, or allow the situation to remain confusing. He could make it obvious that there is no future between them. Daphne may secretly witness this interaction without Kadir knowing she is there. This would give her another piece of evidence she did not request. She may have been prepared to suspect him, but instead she sees him setting a boundary when he believes no one is watching. That is much more powerful than any promise he could make to Daphne directly. People can perform honesty when they know they are being judged. Kadir showing loyalty when he believes Daphne is absent would prove something deeper. Leila's reaction to rejection could still create problems. She may feel humiliated and decide that if she cannot have Kadir, she will at least stop Daphne from trusting him. She might tell Daphne about an old event without understanding that Daphne already knows much of the story. The interesting part would be Daphne's response. Instead of immediately believing the worst, she may recognize that Leila is trying to provoke her. This would demonstrate Daphne's own growth. Earlier emotionally changed information could quickly destroy her test. Now she has learned to examine motives before reacting. She may calmly investigate what Leila says rather than creating another dramatic misunderstanding. If the information is partly true, Daphne can confront Kadir directly. That one change would show that the relationship has already improved even before they officially reconcile. The possibility that Kadir has secretly discovered Daphne's recovered memory can become the central suspense of this section. He may begin dropping small hints to see how she responds. For example, he could mention an old moment incorrectly and purpose. If Daphne reacts before something that she is supposed to be confused, Kadir receives confirmation. He could ask her opinion about someone from their past whom she supposedly barely remember. He may even deliberately leave an object connected to a difficult memory where she will see it. Daphne's reaction slowly reveal the truth. Kadir then understand that she has been testing him. This knowledge will hurt, but he might also understand why she did it. He knows how many times Daphne received incomplete truth from him. He can see that she is trying to protect herself. Instead of exploding immediately, Kadir may decide to let Daphne complete her test. This would show surprising emotional growth. The old Kadir might have reacted from pride and demanded an explanation. The new Kadir could realize that Daphne needs more than words. She needs to see consistent behavior. If he gives her that without announcing that he knows, he is allowing her to reach her own conclusion. Yet this patience can only last for a limited time. The closer they get to the renewal ceremony, the more unfair the silence becomes for both of them. Eventually, someone must end the game. A family dinner could become the moment when everything almost collapses. Both families are together. The ceremony is also, and everyone is the future. Daphne is trying to maintain her performance while Kadir watches her with new awareness. Someone causally mentioned an event from before the accident. Daphne responds naturally, then suddenly realizes she has made a mistake. The room becomes quiet for a second. Most people may not understand what happened, but Kadir does. Their eyes meet, and Daphne sees something different in his expression. For the first time, she wonders whether he already knows. That moment can frighten her more than any open confrontation, because the control she believed she had disappeared instantly. After this, Daphne could become more careful, but being more careful only makes her behavior look more artificial. Kadir may begin feeling sad rather than angry. He understands that Daphne does not trust him enough to tell him the truth. This realization could hurt more than the deception itself. He may ask himself whether anything he has done since the accident has changed her opinion. Perhaps he thought they were growing closer, while Daphne still saw every movement as part of an investigation. This distance becomes the first clear sign that Daphne's feelings are stronger than her plan. If she were only interested in exposing Kadir, his withdrawal would make the process easier. Instead, she begins finding reason to be near him. She may ask unnecessary questions, involve him in small tasks, or remain in shared spaces longer than necessary. Kadir sees this and becomes even more convinced that Daphne's emotions are real despite the game. Neither of them speaks openly, but the relationship becomes more honest through behavior than it has been through words. The ceremony preparations can then reach their most emotional point when Daphne finally tries on the white dress. This scene can become such more than a visual romantic moment. Daphne stands in front of a mirror and sees a version of herself she never expected to become. She built her life around independence, work, and control. Marriage was never meant to happen through confusion, family chaos, and emotional risk. Yet there she is, wearing something that represents a future with the man who has changed her carefully planned life. She may initially look uncomfortable, but slowly her expression changes. She remembered the pain Kadir caused, but she also remembered the quiet moment after the accident when she trusted him without knowing why. Both versions of the relationship exist at the same time. Kadir may see her in the dress unexpectedly. His reaction could be simple and therefore more powerful. He stops, look at her, and become unable to hide what the moment means to him. Daphne, who has spent days analyzing every action, understands immediately that the emotion is real. Kadir does not need to say anything. His face tells her enough for a Daphne. This can be the moment when the plan truly breaks. She wanted proof and now she has it. The problem is that proof does not make the decision easier, it makes it harder. She can no longer tell herself that Kadir is only acting from guilt. She can no longer pretend that his jealousy was the only thing keeping him close. The man standing in front of her wants a real future. Daphne may leave the room quickly because she cannot handle the emotion Kadir allows her to go because he knows she needs space. This small decision could matter. The old Kadir might have followed and demanded an answer. The new Kadir lets her breathe. Daphne notices this as well. Again, he responds differently from the man she expected to test. Mind's storyline with Levent can become more important around this point. If Levent is serious about marriage, Mine will face her own question about commitment. Her excitement or fear can create conversation around the family about what makes a marriage real. Daphne, listening from the outside, may realize that she has spent too much time treating marriage like a weapon. In her conflict with Kadir, the people around her see it as a promise, a risk, and a shared future. This can make her feel guilty about using the renewal idea as part of a test. Mind's relationship may also show Daphne that certainty is not required before commitment. No couple can know exactly what the future will bring. The important question is whether both people are willing to face uncertainty honestly. Kadir can meanwhile face pressure from work or family responsibilities that reveal his priorities. Perhaps an important professional problem appears at the same time as the ceremony preparation. Earlier, he might have become completely focused on solving the problem and left Daphne without explanation. This time, he could tell her exactly what is happening. He may even ask for her advice. This would be a major step because it shows Kadir treating Daphne as a partner rather than someone he must protect from difficult realities. Daphne may be surprised by how naturally they work together. Their different personalities could become useful rather than destructive. Kadir acts quickly and intensively. Daphne thinks carefully and sees risk he may miss. Together, they could solve something that neither would handle as well alone. This experience can remind Daphne why the relationship has always been so powerful. Kadir does not simply create chaos in her life, he also brings out parts of her personality that she often hid around him. She is more spontaneous, more emotionally honest, and sometimes more courageous. In return, Daphne brings structure and patience into Kadir's world. Their differences create conflict, but those same differences can create balance if they stop using them against each other. The coming story may also show Daphne returning to her professional life more seriously after the accident. She cannot remain trapped inside Kadir's house forever. Work gives her another chance to understand who she is outside the romance. Returning to her office, dealing with clients, and making decisions can restore the confidence that become unstable during the memory loss period. This is important because Daphne's final romantic decision should come from strength, not independence. She needs to know that she can return to her own life before choosing whether Kadir belongs in it. Kadir might struggle with this return because it reduces the amount of time he can watch over her. His first instinct could be protective. He may worry that she is pushing himself too quickly, but instead of trying to stop her, he could respect the decision. Perhaps he quietly arranges practical sport without interfering with her work. Daphne notices that he is worried but not controlling. Again, the difference matters. She does not want to be treated like someone fragile simply because she had an accident. Kadir learning to separate care from control becomes one of the clearest signs that he has changed. Tolga may be present in Daphne's professional world, and this gives Kadir's another test. If Kadir sees Daphne working closely with Tolga, jealousy will naturally return. The difference is what he does with it. Instead of creating a scene, he could choose to trust Daphne. He may admit to himself that the situation hurts without blaming her for it. Daphne can notice this restraint. She knows exactly how Kadir used to react, so his silence tells her something. Kadir is learning that loving someone does not mean controlling every relationship around him. This can create an unexpected problem for Daphne because she may have become used to Kadir's jealousy as proof of his feeling. When he stops reacting dramatically, she might briefly wonder whether he cares less. That realization exposes another unhealthy pattern in their relationship. They have sometimes measured love through intensity rather than stability. A huge argument felt like passion, a jealous reaction felt like proof. Now they must learn that calm trust can be stronger than emotional chaos. Daphne may initially struggle with this because the quieter version of love feels unfamiliar. The story can use this transition to show small everyday movements that matter more than grand declaration. Kadir remembering how Daphne takes her coffee, Daphne noticing that he has not slept because he saw was dealing with the family issue. Kadir sending information she needs for work without turning it into an excuse to see her. Daphne forcing something for him without announcing that she cares. These movements shows a relationship forming under the surface while both characters meant too proud to name it. Selma may become increasingly nervous as she notices this quieter closeness. Dramatic fights were easier for her to understand because they created clear reason why Daphne and Kadir could separate. Calm partnership is more threatening if Daphne and Kadir began acting like a team. Selma can see that the connection is becoming stronger than temporary attraction. She may attempt one final serious intervention. Perhaps she tells Kadir that marrying Daphne will change his entire life or damage finally expectation. She could even bring up responsibilities that Kadir has ignored because of the romance. Instead of arguing, Kadir might respond with the calm decision. He respects Selma as his mother, but he cannot leave according to her fear. This calmness can have more impact than shouting. Selma realizes that Kadir is no longer asking permission. She may feel she is losing him, but over time she can understand that accepting Daphne does not mean losing her son. It means accepting that he has built an adult life outside her control. Daphne may overhear part of this conflict. Hearing Kadir defend his choice when she is not present would again give her proof she never asked for. She begins to understand that Kadir's commitment is not only romantic behavior performed in front of her, he is changing his relationship with other people because he genuinely imagined Daphne in his future. The emotional pressure can finally become too much shortly before the renewal ceremony. Daphne may decide she cannot continue. She could plan to tell Kadir everything privately before the event. She want to explain that her memory returned, that she used the situation to test him, and that she no longer knows what she expected to achieve. This would be an important sign of growth because she chooses honesty before being exposed. However, before she can speak, another event may interrupt them. A family emergency, business problem, or Leila's sudden appearance could delay the conversation. This delay is dangerous because Kadir already knows or strongly suspects the truth. He may interpret Daphne's continued silence as a deliberate decision to keep deceiving him. His patience starts breaking. He becomes colder, and Daphne realizes she may have waited too long. The story then approaches the ceremony with both characters emotionally wounded before the real confrontation has even happened. On the day of the renewal, the atmosphere can appear beautiful while everything underneath is unstable. Both families gather. Mine and Levent may be dealing with their own romantic future. Selma looks uncomfortable but has agreed to participate. Tolga may arrive only because Daphne's family expects him or because he has decided that avoiding the event would give it too much power over him. Leila could remain outside the main celebration, watching events she can no longer control. Daphne get ready in silence. She looked at herself and understood that she has reached the exact point she originally created as a trap, but the trap is now around her. She knows Kadir loves her. She also knows she loves him. What she does not know is whether love is enough to overcome the damage caused by secrecy and mistrust. She would stop everything before walking out, yet doing so would create another escape. Daphne has spent too much of the story reacting to fear. This time she may decide to face the moment and allow the truth to come out in front of Kadir. Kadir, waiting for her, could appear calm while feeling completely uncertain. If he knows she remember he has his own decision to make, he could expose her before the ceremony, but perhaps he want to hear her tell the truth willingly. He may believe that if Daphne cannot be honest now, the relationship has no future. Therefore he wait. When Daphne finally appears in the white dress, the emotional meaning is completely different from what Arthur expected. The family see a romantic image. Daphne and Kadir see the end of their secret game. Their eyes meet and both understand that something must change before the ceremony can continue. Daphne may begin the movement exactly as planned, but her emotion make it impossible to continue pretending. She could suddenly stop the process. Everyone becomes confused. Selma may assume Daphne's memory has failed again. Tolga understands something deeper is happening. Kadir remains silent. Then Daphne finally reveals that she remembers everything. The effect of this confession could be immediate. The family members who believed she was still recovering feel shocked. Selma may feel angry become the entire ceremony now appears to have been built on a lie. Mine may look guilty if she knew. Tolga might feel confirmed in his suspicion, but the most important reaction belonged to Kadir. Kadir does not react with relief. That would be too simple. He may quietly ask through his expression and action how long she has known what Daphne admits that she remembered long before the ceremony. Kadir's feel deeply hurt. Every moment he believed was part of her confused recovery suddenly looks different. He realizes that she watched him, mired him, and judged him while he believed she needed protection. Daphne tries to explain that she needed to know the truth about his feelings. She needed to see whether he would use her condition for his own benefit. She wanted to know whether he would lie about their past. All of these reasons are understandable, but Kadir can still be hurt. He may point out through his reaction that trust cannot be rebuilt by secretly testing someone forever. This becomes one of the strongest possible conflict in the series because neither person is completely wrong. Daphne had reasons not to trust Kadir. Kadir had reasons to protect Daphne when he believed she had lost her memory, yet both made decisions without giving the other person's full information. They are mirrors of each other. Kadir hid difficult truth because he believed he knew what Daphne could handle. Daphne hid her recovered memory because she believed she needed proof before Kadir deserved honesty. The ceremony collapses, but not necessarily in a dramatic public fight. A quieter failure could be more powerful. Kadir may simply leave the room. Daphne lets him go because she understands that this time he is the one who needs space. The families remain confused and the beautiful decorations suddenly feel meaningless. After this, Daphne may return to her own home. The false marriage is finished. There is no reason to remain in Kadir's house. This departure becomes painful because she is leaving at the moment when she finally understands how much she wanted to stay. But staying after the truth is exposed would feel dishonest. She needs to rebuild her life outside the game. Kadir's house becomes quiet again. Selma may initially feel that the problem has solved itself, but the soon realizes that Kadir is not relieved. He is deeply hurt. He may not blame Daphne loudly, but he becomes distant from everyone. Selma starts understanding that removing Daphne from the house has not restored her son. If has created an emptiness. Daphne also struggled after returning home. She expected honesty to bring relief, yet it leaves her feeling worse. She can finally leave without pretending, but she misses Kadir. She remembers the small routine they created. She misses the way he checked whether she was comfortable. She misses the argument she once found exhausting. The absence shows her that the relationship had become real long before she admitted it. Mine may become the person who forces Daphne to examine this feeling rather than telling her to return immediately. Mine could ask whether Daphne actually wanted the ceremony to fail. Daphne may realize she does not know. Originally, she created it to expose the false marriage, but by the end, part of her wanted Kadir to continue. That truth becomes difficult to accept. Kadir, meanwhile, must decide what to do with his anger. He could remain proud and wait for Daphne to come back, repeating the same pattern that hurt them before, or he can use the situation to grow. A stronger prediction is that he does not immediately choose her. He respects the separation, but he also does not close himself completely. Instead, he begins fixing the deeper problem that made Daphne distrust him. If there is still unresolved information from his past, Kadir could gather everything and prepare to tell Daphne without excuses. He may speak with family members, could hold conflict, and remove any situation that could become an other secret. His goal is not to win Daphne back through performance, it is to become someone who can offer a relationship without hidden danger. Tolga can observe this change from the outside. He may initially expect Kadir to react with jealousy or anger. Instead, he sees Kadir becoming quieter and more responsible. This forces Tolga to reconsider his view. He may still believe Daphne deserved better than the pain she experienced, but he can also see that Kadir is trying to become better. Tolga's final romantic turning point could happen when Daphne, feeling lonely, turns to him for support. The old triangle would suggest that this is Tolga's chance. He could use Kadir's absence to become close to Daphne again, but a mature Tolga may refuse to treat her vulnerability as an opportunity. He may support her without wishing for romance. This choice would show that he has finally understood the difference between loving someone and trying to possess their future. Daphne would respect him more for this. She might even apologize for allowing him to remain trapped between hope and disappointment for so long. Their connection can finally become honest. Tolga knows she loves Kadir. Daphne's no. Tolga deserves a life where he is chosen without comparison. Their development also removed the easiest obstacle between Daphne and Kadir. Without Olga actively competing, Daphne cannot explain her hesitation through the triangle. She might face the real question alone. Does she believe Kadir's change is enough for an other chance? Kadir's next approach to Daphne should therefore be very different from earlier attempt. He should not arrive with the dramatic declaration, expensive gift, or jealous demand. He may simply ask for one honest conversation. He tells her everything he previously hid. He does not defend every mistake. He does not explain them away through fear or love. He expects responsibility. Daphne listens without interrupting. This moment would show her growth too. She does not react before hearing the whole story. Kadir tells her that he knows why she tested him, but he cannot build a future where they both secretly examine each other. If there is ever another beginning, it must be completely honest. Daphne may not immediately answer. She needs time, but this time Kadir truly gives it. He does not follow her, pressure her, or involve the families. He returns to his own life. This silence becomes the final test of Daphne's feelings. She now has exactly what she claimed to want: truth, space, and freedom. Nobody is forcing her toward Kadir. Tolga is no longer competing. Kadir is not demanding an answer. Her family can support whatever choice they makes. For the first time, Daphne's decision is completely hers. And that is precisely why she begins moving towards Kadir again. The difference is important. Earlier crises brought them together. The accident forced them into the same house. Jealousy created emotional confession. Family problem pushed them onto the same side. Now Daphne can choose Kadir during a quiet period when nothing external demands it. She may first begin with small contact, a message about something practical, a visit connected to work, a question she could easily answer herself. Both pretend the interaction is ordinary, but they understood what it means. Daphne is opening the door. Kadir does not rush through it. He responds calmly. This restraint makes Daphne feel safer. She begins spending more time around him, but now every moment is real. There is no false marriage and no hidden memory. If Daphne stays for dinner, it is because she wants to. If Kadir helps her, she does not pretend. It is a husband's duty. Their relationship starts rebuilding from zero. The families notice immediately. Selma becomes nervous but may choose not to interfere after seeing how badly the previous separation affected Kadir. Mine is hopeful but avoid pushing Daphne. Tolga keeps his distance. Everyone finally allows the two people at the center of the story to decide for themselves. The failed renewal ceremony can then become a symbol. They both joke about emotionally later. What began as Daphne's test could eventually inspire Kadir to ask a much more serious question, not immediately, but after trust has been rebuilt. He may suggest that one day they should replace the false ceremony with the real one. The important point is that Daphne must not accept because she is catch in emotion. She should make him wait. She may want a real relationship first without dramatic promises. This first her character. She needs to know that their ordinary life can work before they create another ceremony. Kadir agrees. That agreement becomes another sign of growth. He no longer needs immediate certainty. He understands that love can develop without forcing every question into an answer. The next conflict can then come from outside rather than from another simple misunderstanding. Perhaps a business crisis affects Daphne's career. She could be offered an opportunity that requires travel or a major change in her schedule. Earlier, such a development might trigger Kadir's fear of losing her. Now, the relationship is tested by whether he can support her ambition. Daphne may expect him to ask her to stay. Instead, Kadir could encourage her to take the opportunity if it is truly what she wants. This response surprises her. She understands that Kadir is no longer asking her to become smaller in order to fit into his life. At the same time, Kadir may face his own difficult choice. A family responsibility or business problem may require him to make sacrifices. Daphne can support him without taking control. They began learning the basic partnership they never had time to build before. The romance becomes stranger precisely because the story is less focused on constant jealousy. A quieter relationship gives them room to discover compatibility beyond attraction. They may disagree about money, family expectation, work schedule, or where they would live. These particular issues can create fresh conflict without repeating old betrayals. Daphne may discover that Kadir is surprisingly traditional about some things. Kadir may learn that Daphne refuses to change important part of her independence. Their argument remain lively, but they start ending differently. Instead of walking away, they return to the conversation. This is the real change the series need. Daphne and Kadir should not become completely different people. Their strong personalities are part of the attraction. What must change is how they handle disagreement. Selma's eventual acceptance can also develop through these ordinary moments. She may see Daphne helping Kadir during a difficult family situation without expecting praise. She may notice that Daphne challenges Kadir when necessary rather than blindly agreeing with him. Over time, Selma can understand that Daphne's strength is not a threat, it may actually be what Kadir needs. Daphne, in turn, could make an effort with Selma without becoming submissive. She does not need to earn permission to love Kadir, but she can respect the importance of his family. A situation where Selma needs help could allow Daphne to support her privately. Selma may struggle to thank her, but the relationship begins changing. Mine and Levin can provide a lighter contrast. Their possible engagement or wedding plan may continue while Daphne and Kadir care. Yet the strange path also makes the final choice more meaningful. Daphne has already seen when what loving Kadir looks like when the remembers nothing and when she remembers everything. In both situations, the feeling survives that become impossible to deny. Kadir's deepest challenge will still be fear. He nearly lost Daphne once, and that experience can make him overprotective. Daphne, after their reconcile moments of danger, may trigger his old habit. If Daphne is late returning from work or enters an other risky situation, Kadir could become controlling again for a moment. The difference is that he recognizes it and apologizes before the conflict grows. Daphne's deepest challenge remains suspicion. Past secret taught her to expect disappointment even when Kadir is honest. She may sometimes search for hidden meaning. Her growth involves learning that trust is not the absence of fear, it is choosing not let fear decide everything. These weaknesses ensure that the relationship remain interesting after reconciliation. They are not magically healed, they simply become aware of the pattern and work against them. A final external crisis could then provide the strongest proof that they have changed. Imagine Kadir learned something that could seriously affect Daphne. His old instinct tells him to hide it until he can solve the problem. He almost does. Then he remembers the failed renewal ceremony and the pain created by hidden information. Instead, he goes directly to Daphne. He tells her the truth immediately. Daphne is frightened or angry, but she does not blame him for the situation. She recognizes that telling her early was the difficult choice. Together, they decide what to do. This single event would demonstrate more relationship growth than another huge romantic speech. The entire series have repeatedly shown how secret create disaster. Choosing honesty before disaster arrive proof then both characters finally learned something. Tolga may even help them solve the crisis. His involvement without romantic competition would complete his transition. Kadir can accept Tolga's help without seeing him as a rival. Daphne can work with Tolga without feeling that she is betraying Kadir. The old triangle is transformed into something healthier. Layla, seeing that her attempt to create doubt no longer work, loses power over the relationship. She will create practical problem, but she cannot destroy trust with the single suggestion. Daphne now asks Kadir directly. Kadir now answer directly. The space where manipulation used to grow becomes much smaller. By the end of this section, the audience could finally see Daphne and Kadir reaching a point where the relationship is no longer only a possibility created by circumstances. It becomes a decision they are both actively making. They are not married yet, they may not even be officially engaged, but they are building the kind of connection that could survive those future steps. The failure renewal ceremony remains important because it destroys the last major illusion between them. Daphne could no longer pretend her feelings were only curiosity. Kadir could no longer pretend protecting Daphne justified hiding everything. Both had to face the uncomfortable truth that love without trust was turning them into people they did not want to become. Their separation after the ceremony, therefore, becomes necessary rather than tragic. It gives them the space to return differently. When Daphne eventually walks back into Kadir's life by choice, the moment would be quiet. No accident, no lost memory, no family emergency. She simply chooses to be there. Kadir understands the meaning immediately. This is where Muhtemel asks can shift from a story about whether love is possible to a story about whether love can become sustainable. The first question has already been answered. Daphne and Kadir clearly love each other. The difficult question is whether they can build a life where that love does not constantly destroy their peace. The coming episode can explore that challenge in a fresher way rather than repeating jealousy and hidden secret. The story can show two strong people learning partnership. Their families remain important, their careers create pressure, old enemies may return and new problem will certainly appear, but the main emotional direction become forward rather than circular. Daphne's recovered memory is therefore not simply the end of one storyline, it is beginning of the most important test of the entire relationship. When she forgot the past, loving Kadir became easy. When she remembered everything, loving him became a conscious risk. The future depends on whether she believes that risk now has a different result. Kadir cannot demand her trust, he has to build it through consistency. Daphne cannot demand proof forever. At some point, she has to decide whether the evidence she has seen is enough. The renewal ceremony brought both of them to that point faster than they expected. Daphne created it as a trap. Kadir allowed it to continue as a test, and both ended up discovering the same thing. Their biggest enemy was no longer Tolga, Layla, Selma, or any outside problem. Their biggest enemy was the habit of hiding truth when they were afraid. When that habit begins to break, everything changes. The final image of this stage could show Daphne visiting Kadir after some time apart. She does not arrive as his confused wife. She does not wear a bridal dress. She does not need a dramatic event to bring her there. She simply enters as Daphne, fully appears the past. Kadir looks at her without knowing what she has decided. This time Daphne does not play a game. She says that simple choice can become far more powerful than the failed ceremony, because it means that after remembering every mistake, every argument and every reason to leave, Daphne still sees a possible future with Kadir, and for the first time that possible love begins to look like something both of them may finally be ready to make real. After the collapse of the false marriage game, Daphne and Kadir enter a stage that is quieter on the surface but much more important. Underneath the accident, the missing memories, the hidden truth, and the failed renewal ceremony have already forced both of them through face feeling they spent too long avoiding. Daphne now knows that her love for Kadir did not disappear even when she remembered every painful detail. Kadir now knows that loving Daphne is not enough if he continues hiding difficult trust whenever he becomes afraid. Their next challenge is no longer discovering whether love exists between them. That question has already been answered many times. The new question is whether they can behave differently when there is no dramatic event controlling the. That is where the next part of Muhtemel ask can become much stronger. Daphne slowly returns to Kadir's life, but she does not immediately return to the same relationship. She is careful. She wants to see whether the calmer Kadir she saw after the accident is a temporary version created by fear, or whether he has genuinely changed. Kadir understood this better than before. In the past, he might have become impatient and tried to force Daphne to give him a clear answer. Now he knows that every demand for certainty can sound like another attempt to control her. Because of this, he allows their connection to rebuild through smaller movements. He does not call her every hour. He does not appear at her door whenever he feels jealous. He gives her room to work, to see her family, and to make decisions without him. At first, Daphne appreciates the freedom. Then, surprisingly, she starts missing the old Kadir constant presence. This creates a new kind of emotional confusion. She does not miss the unhealthy jealousy or endless argument, but she misses knowing that Kadir is always close. What he finally learns how to give her space. Daphne discovered that space can also feel lonely. That does not mean she wants him to return to his old behavior. Instead, it pushes her to take more deep responsibility for the relationship herself. If she wants to see Kadir, she cannot always wait for him appear first. If she misses him, she has to admit it through her actions. Slowly, Daphne begins contacting him for reasons that are not connected to emergencies. She sends him information he does not really need. She asks his opinion about small matters she could easily decide herself. She won't find excuses to pass through places where she knows he may be. Kadir understands what is happening but does not embrace her by pointing it out. He simply responds. This quiet rebuilding may look less dramatic than their earlier fight, but emotionally it can be much stronger because both are choosing every step. Daphne's return to her professional life became one of the biggest part of this new phase. The accident showed her how quickly control can disappear, and this changed the way she looks at work. Before everything happened, Daphne often treated professional success as the most reliable part of her life. Relationship could become confusing, people could disappoint her, and emotion could create risk, but work followed clearer rules. After the accident even that uncertainty feel less permanent. Daphne may decide that she no longer want to spend her life only avoiding mistakes. She begins taking bigger professional risk, pushing for new project and looking at opportunities she previously considered too uncertain. This version of Daphne becomes more ambitious, not less. Love does not weaken her career. Instead, nearly losing part of her life makes her more determined to use the time she has. A major opportunity could appear through a new client or partnership. The project might require Daphne to spend more time outside Istanbul, travel regularly, or work with people Kadir does not completely trust. Earlier, this situation would have created immediate conflict. Kadir's first instinct would be to worry, then worry would become jealousy, and jealousy would become an argument. This time, Hatteris to handle the situation differently. Daphne can see that he is uncomfortable, but he does not tell her to reject the opportunity. He asks practical question rather than making accusation. He wants to know whether the project is safe, how long she will be away, and what support she needs. Daphne is surprised because she expected resistant part of her, almost prepared for the argument before it happened. When it does not happen, she is forced to recognize that Kadir is making a serious effort. This matters more than any romantic gesture because he is spotting something that could make him feel less secure. Kadir is beginning to understand that if he wants Daphne as the partner, he has to love the life she has built, only the part that are convenient for him. The new project can also place Daphne and Tolga together professionally, creating the first real test of Kadir's new trust. Tolga may have stepped away from the romantic competition, but he has not disappeared from Daphne's world. Their connection through work, shared history, and mutual respect remain. Kadir cannot realistically expect Daphne to remove Tolga from her life simply because the two men have fought over her. This is where Kadir has to prove that his growth is more than words. He may see Daphne and Tolga discussing plans late into the evening, traveling to the same meeting, or celebrating an important success together. Jealousy still appears because Kadir has not become a different person overnight. The important difference is what he does with it. Instead of confronting Tolga or excusing Daphne, he waits until he is calm. He reminds herself that Daphne returned to him by choice. Tolga had made chances to use her confusion after the failed ceremony, but chose not to. Slowly, Kadir began seeing Tolga as a man he disliked but can respect rather than as a permanent enemy. Daphne notices this change almost immediately. She understands Kadir well enough to recognize when he is jealous, even when he says nothing. At first, she may test him lightly, mentioning Tolga's involvement and watching Kadir's face. But unlike the memory game, this test does not last. Daphne catches herself and realizes that if she wants an honest relationship, she must stop creating small situations simply to measure Kadir's reaction. Instead, she tells him directly about the project. She explains when she will work will Tolga and why his involvement is necessary. Kadir listens. The movement is simple, but it represents huge progress because both characters are doing exactly what they failed to do before, sharing uncomfortable information before it becomes a secret. Tolga's own story can grow during this phase because stepping away from Daphne romantically leaves him with an emotional emptiness he did not expect for so long. Much of his energy was focused on proving that he could offer Daphne a better life than Kadir. Once he stopped cooperating, he has to ask who he is when Daphne is no longer the center of his future plan. This can become an rather important development rather than simply sending Tolga out of the story. He may throw himself into work at first, taking on more responsibility and pretending the situation does not affect him. But people around him can notice that his usual confidence has changed. His ability He may become quieter, less interested in social events, and more willing to take risk in business because he has nothing personal distracting him. Daphne can feel guilty when she sees this, but Olga may not want her sympathy. That is important. He does not need to become a tragic man waiting for Daphne forever. His strongest growth would come from a refusing to Daphne himself through rejection. A new professional relationship could bring another woman into his life, but the series should not immediately force romance. Instead, Tolga may slowly discover that conversation feel easier when he is not comparing someone to Daphne. He could build a friendship first, allowing the audience to see a version of himself that is not defensive or competitive. This also changes how Kadir sees him once Tolga stops behaving like a rival. Kadir's own hostility begins looking unnecessary. The two men may eventually be forced to cooperate on a problem connected to Daphne's new project. Their cooperation would be uncomfortable, but it could become surprisingly effective. Kadir acts from instinct, Tolga thinks strategically, and both share one important goal, keeping Daphne sane without controlling her. That last part is where both men can prove they have changed. A fresh conflict around Daphne's work can then begin to grow. The new project may initially appear like an exciting opportunity, but small problems emerge. Documents do not match, a promised payment is delayed, someone involved in the partnership seems to know more about defense personal life than they should. At first, Daphne treats these issues as normal business complications. She refuses to become frightened simply because Kadir has a suspicious feeling. This creates tension because Kadir notices detail Daphne is willing to ignore. Earlier, he might have acted behind her back, investigated the issue secretly, and tried to solve everything before she learned there was a problem. The new Kadir knows that doing this would destroy the trust they are rebuilding. So he tells Daphne what worries him. He makes it clear that he is not ordering her to stop the project. He simply shares what he noticed. Daphne's first reaction may still be defensive because she is sensitive to anything that sounds like Kadir interfering with her career, but after calming down, she reviews the information herself. She discovered that one of his concerns is valid. This becomes a major turning point because Daphne realizes that accepting Kadir's help does not mean losing independence. She can remain responsible for her decision while allowing the person she loves to see risk she missed. The investigation into the project can reveal that the business problem is connected to an old issue from Kadir's family. Perhaps someone wants access to Imerdag family through Daphne. Knowing that Kadir is emotionally attached to her, this would create a completely different type of threat from the earlier romantic conflict. Daphne would become part of a problem not because she made a poor romantic decision, but because her connection to Kadir now has practical consequences. Kadir may immediately blame himself. He might believe that everyone close to him becomes vulnerable because of his past. His old perspective instinct returns strongly. He may tell Daphne she should leave the project and distance herself from his family until he handles everything. Daphne refuses not because she wants to be stubborn, but because Kadir is again trying to solve fear through control. This creates their first serious argument after reconciliation. The difference is that neither immediately walks away. Daphne tells him through her action that she will not allow danger to become another reason why he makes decision for her. Kadir argues that he cannot calmly watch her become a target because of him. Both have valid feelings. The scene can become emotional because Kadir's fear is connected directly to the accident he already lived through. One moment when Daphne was hurt and he felt powerless, the idea of another threat brings that fear back. Daphne begins to understand that this controlling behavior is not always caused by pride, sometimes it is panic. Understanding the reason does not mean accepting the behavior, but it helps her respond differently. Instead of excusing him of never changing, she reminds him that they promised to face difficult things together. Kadir finally agrees to let her remain involved. This is not easy for him, and Daphne can see the effort. Selma becomes deeply involved when the business threat connects to the family. Her first reaction is likely to be anger toward Daphne, especially if she believes the problem appeared because Daphne became involved in something she did not understand. Selma may suggest that Kadir's life was more stable before Daphne entered it. This statement could reopen old wound because Daphne has heard version of it many times. Earlier she might have answered sharply. Now she handled it with more control. She make it clear that the new problem comes from decision made long before she meet Kadir. She will not carry responsibility for every difficulty in the Amindak family simply because she is the easiest person to blame. Kadir spot Daphne, which increases Selma's frustration. Yet something important changes inside Selma when she watches Daphne continue helping despite the accusation. Daphne could easily walk away and protect herself. Instead, she stays because the problem affects Kadir. She worked through document, uses her professional contact, and perhaps discover an important connection that nobody in Kadir's family noticed. Selma began seeing Daphne differently. She may still dislike how strongly Daphne challenges her, but she can no longer pretend that Daphne only brings chaos. She is also bringing solutions. Susie and August may become part of the investigation in a lighter but meaningful way. Their presence can help balance the heavier tension. August may know someone connected to the business world involved in the project or remember a detail That seems unimportant until Daphne connects it with other information. Susie may notice social behavior that the others miss. This gives Daphne's family an active role rather than simply watching the romance. It also creates a situation where the two families must cooperate. Selma, who once disliked having Daphne's family inside the house, now need their help. At first, the cooperation is full of discomfort. Selma wants things done her way. Mine challenges her. Susie refuses to be treated like an outsider. August tries to keep the peace. Kadir is exhausted by the constant arguments. Daphne unexpectedly becomes the calm person in the room, organizing everyone around the real problem. This reversal can be both funny and emotionally satisfying because Daphne once felt like the source of disorder in the Imendage house. Now she becomes the person creating structure. Mind and Levant's relationship can also develop during this chaos. Their possible engagement begins to look more serious and they face the practical questions that come after romance. Where